Hey everybody, it's Tony with Big T Bariatric, and I'm back at you with another video. And today I want to cover a 340-pound woman who killed her 10-year-old foster son by sitting on him. Now this is a terrible story. I have not watched this news article yet, so we'll see the details of what happened. This was another request that I got from a subscriber, so let's get into it right away.
Ray and Lourdes, the foster mother of Dakota Levi Stevens, isn't yet in custody, but she is charged in his death, accused of asphyxiating him while restraining him. Home security videos show Porter County deputies on approach to make an arrest neighbors have been anticipating for nearly 3 months.
It's sad for what she did and how long it's taken.
Deputies had planned to take into custody the foster mother of 10-year-old Dakota Levi Stevens. He died in April under circumstances that weren't clear at the time, but prosecutors now say,
I hate seeing the videos of the kid playing around. 10 years old, man. 10 years old. You killed your 10-year-old foster kid, and for what? Because he was acting up? Like, why did you need to sit on his head and his face or his body when you're a 300-plus pound woman? Like, I do not get this story at all. Like, why did this happen?
His foster mother, Jennifer Wilson, killed him when she lay on top of him in their yard for more than 8 minutes, cutting off the...
8 minutes? I can't even fathom that. You're sitting on a little boy for 8 minutes. On his head, on his neck, on his chest. Like, is there no other way to hold him down or restrain him? Like, I don't care what he was doing. Unless he was pointing a gun at your head or something, I do not see any reason to sit on a kid for 8 minutes when you're 300 plus pounds. Like, you didn't think that it was going to do anything to him?
The oxygen to his brain. Wilson is now charged with reckless homicide, but she's not in custody because she and her husband were out of town when deputies arrived at their home.
You know, my daughter seen it happen. My daughter walked by while that little boy was laying on the ground dying. So we were hoping for some justice today, and it didn't happen.
Court record.
They were out of town, so they didn't arrest them. The audacity to kill a little boy and then you're going to go out of town on a trip. And nothing is happening right now. There's no justice for this little boy. Like, why is she still not in jail? I'm sure she came back by now. Or are they fleeing? Like, how can you kill a little boy and then be allowed to leave and go on a trip? Like,
show Wilson told deputies during an interview that Dakota was acting out. He'd run away to a neighbor's house, accusing his foster parents of hitting him, and he refused to get out of the car when Wilson brought him home.
So it's clear that they were very abusive people. Very abusive people. He ran away from home once. He refused to get out of the car when they went to go visit them. So that's clearly a sign that there's other types of abuse going on in the home. But still, there's no justice for this case. The woman's still not been arrested. And now she killed the little boy.
Restrained him on the ground with her body. In those records, a description of what happened over the course of 5 doorbell videos that captured the incident. The first 2, deputies say, show Dakota screaming underneath Wilson's weight, her body positioned near his head and neck. In the next 3...
Why would you sit on him there, in his head and his neck? Seriously, you're a 300-pound plus woman, and you're going to sit on a little kid's head and neck. Like, there are other ways to restrain him. You could hold him down. I know, I hold my nieces down and tickle them all the time, right? Like we wrestle, we play around, but not once have I rolled over onto their head and neck for 8 minutes and prevented them from breathing.
3 videos, he doesn't move. The documents say Wilson asked Dakota if he was ready to get up, and are you faking? Realizing something was wrong, she asked one of her other children to call 911 and can be heard saying, I was laying on him and he was acting bad.
Yeah, he had his behaviors and we did have to put him in some holds, but it wasn't like, we weren't sitting on him, we weren't physically like on top of him.
Dakota's former foster father says he was taught how to safely calm the little boy.
And then just hold him like a bear hug. And then literally when we do that, he would be upset for a minute, and then he'd like melt in your arms, and that's what he needed at the time.
This is a terribly sad story. This little boy went from foster home to foster home, so of course he had some behavioral issues. Like, we would expect that from this situation. But like the other foster parents said, like, they found a way to calm him down by holding him in their arms. Like, the kid just wanted a hug. He didn't want 340 pounds of fat sitting on his head and neck to restrain him in that way. Like, these people were very abusive to him. And then they killed him for no reason whatsoever, because he acted up a little bit because he didn't want to get out of the car. There was no other way to restrain this kid.
Dakota's extended family says they'd almost given up hope they'd see accountability.
I felt grateful that due diligence had been done and that justice will be served. But at the end of the day, it doesn't bring happiness because he's still gone.
He was just a kid given a bad hand, but he made the best of every situation.
Prosecutors tell us Wilson is not considered a flight risk, and they expect her to turn herself in the coming days. In Northwest Indiana, Jenna Barnes, WGN.
Or I'm glad she will turn herself in, and definitely not a flight risk, because where's she going to go? Where's the biological family in this? I'm not blaming the biological family for the death, but they cared about him. The aunt said on the phone, "Hey, we're sad that he's gone." So where's the family at? Why couldn't the aunt take him in? Where's his parents? Like, why was he going from foster home to foster home? I don't understand the situation, so I'm not going to judge what happened to him through the biological family. But if I was the aunt, I would have taken him in. Like, why is he going from foster home to foster home, and then now he was killed and abused by one of those foster parents? The foster system is so messed up in this country. So messed up. But again, that's not the whole thing of the story. 340-pound woman. I noticed that this video did not at any time note the weight of the woman. I found it on a different site. So let's see. I actually found that information from this video from Law and Crime. 340-pound woman accused of killing her foster son. And I played some of it, and I'm going to play a little bit now. But they didn't offer too much information on it, so that's why I went and found the other video. But we'll watch a little bit of it.
This didn't have to happen, right? This did not have to happen. He didn't have to die. He just wasn't being monitored by someone that actually cared about him.
Look at her. Look at her. 340-pound woman. She's a murderer. A murderer. Why would you think sitting on his head would do anything good? Like, is she just a complete idiot or something?
Indiana foster mother gets locked up as she now faces charges in connection to the death of her foster child. 48-year-old Jennifer Lee Wilson is charged with reckless homicide for the death of her foster son, Dakota Stevens. The case unfolded in April of this year when young Dakota was rushed to the hospital. Wilson reportedly told investigators the 10-year-old ran away earlier that day, and she brought the boy home after finding him at a neighbor's home. After they returned to Wilson's home, Dakota reportedly was acting up and threw himself on the ground. According to the Indy Star, Dakota was placed in Wilson's care just a month prior.
You know, I want to be on that same benefit of the doubt, you know, the fact that the two didn't really know each other. But my problem is that she's supposed to be a foster parent. She's supposed to have been vetted to conduct herself appropriately and to understand the traumas that children like this, not just the person in her home at that time, but all of the children that are in the foster system are dealing with a lot more than a typical child would be. I
agree with that. So maybe he was in some sort of abusive situation with his biological parents, and so that's why he was in foster care. But she was supposed to help the situation. She was supposed to help him overcome the trauma he'd been through, not adding upon it by abusing him to the fact that he's now running away from you. He refuses to get out of the vehicle when they go up to your place. Like, that should be some red flags there from somebody, that this kid is scared of this place for some reason. And then she just totally abandons all caution and thinks the only way to restrain him is to sit on his head and his face. Like,
the expectation should have been that she would have known how to manage this child, no matter what the child was doing, no matter what the behaviors were. She should have been vetted already to know what to do in cases like this.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, do a lot of these foster parents not actually care about the kids? Are they in it because they get some sort of financial gain from that? And so they take the kids in, they'll cash the check, but they don't really care how these kids live, whether or not they die or any of that stuff. Like, if you're going to take on a foster kid, then you need to understand their needs, and you need to be able to have the ability to take care of them. And that's what's so messed up about this situation, because there are so many kids in the foster system right now, but there are not enough parents willing to take on the kids, and it's a really sad situation. So sadly, what you do is you have a kid like this who probably was abused, was going through some sort of trauma already, and then they end up in a situation that ultimately kills him. I mean, terrible, terrible story.
While the young boy was on the ground, Wilson told police she lied on the boy's body to keep him under control while she called his caseworker. That act would have devastating consequences. While Wilson sat on his less than 95-pound body, Dakota screamed and then stopped moving. Wilson...
I mean, like I already said, is there no other way to restrain him while you call the social worker? There's no other way to restrain him? You couldn't have maybe some of the other kids help? Maybe you couldn't put him inside of his room for a moment? Like, you have to sit on him outside? He's 95 pounds. You're a huge, huge woman. Pick him up, take him inside, put him on his bed, close the door, just leave him alone for a moment, and then go call the social worker. Or where's your husband? Or where's the other kids? Like, there are other ways of handling it. This is a situation where obesity comes into play. I've mentioned this a lot on my channel, that being that obese makes it difficult to be a proper parent. Now, I'm not saying you can't be a parent at that size, but apparently there are some risks, there are some issues, and crushing your child is definitely one of them. So, yeah. This is just a terrible story all around. We cannot pretend that obesity didn't play a role in this child's death. If you were a normal pound person, maybe sitting on his head might have killed him, but the fact that you're 340 pounds and you sat on this kid, that definitely escalated his death and made it more likely that he was going to die.
Wilson reportedly told police she thought Dakota was faking, but when she rolled him over, his eyelids were pale.
It's almost unbelievable. I mean, once you start looking at, how all of this unfolded and the decisions that were made by the adults, not the alleged killer in this case, but all of the adults that are surrounding this child who are supposed to protect him. I mean,
yeah, where's everybody else? I already asked that question. Where is everybody else? When he stops screaming and he's silent and he stops moving and kicking and whatever, like, isn't that a moment to, okay, you're restrained, let me move off of you now? Why did she continue to sit on him? Maybe there was an opportunity to revive him after just a little bit. Like, why she continued to sit on him for a long period of time, I have no idea. And nobody said nothing. Nobody said nothing.
I mean, it's just a tragedy all around.
Psychologist explains Wilson's quest for authority would have tragic consequences.
I don't know that she thought it was a good idea. I think what she was thinking was probably something along the lines of, I need to throw my weight around. I need to get a...
I hate to laugh at this because this is a terrible story, but I need to throw my weight around. When you're that freaking big, why do you need to throw your weight around against a 95-pound kid, a 10-year-old? Like, don't you realize how big you are and how strong you are compared to that kid? This is a kid that didn't need you to throw your weight around and to be the absolute authority figure. He needed you to love him. He needed you to take care of him and show him some love. Like the other foster dad who was able to hug him and calm him down. He showed the right love to this kid. But no, you had to be the boss. You had to be the authority figure. You had to throw your weight around. And then ultimately killed him because you couldn't handle the fact that he didn't like being with you because you were an abusive you-know-what.
Authority back, right? That the literal throw my weight around. The reality is that it didn't matter how much she weighed. The fact that she put herself on top of this child suggests to me that she was ill prepared to manage these kinds of extreme behaviors that a child.
I disagree with that point. I think her weight directly contributed to this. Being as big as she wasn't prepared to chase him around. So she sat on him. And I think her weight directly is what caused him to die. Would a normal-sized woman be able to do the same thing? Probably. If you were sitting on his head and neck for 5 minutes. But I think the additional weight probably killed him sooner. How long after he stopped screaming did she continue to sit on him? That's my question.
Child in the foster care system would have been experiencing. But the problem is that all these children in foster care systems are experiencing extreme behaviors because of all the things that they've already been subjected to, even to that point.
Dakota was airlifted.
Yeah, if you can't handle the behavior of a foster child who's probably been through some things, some trauma, then you shouldn't be a foster parent. You shouldn't be the type of person that needs to throw your authority around it and be the boss.
Lifted from a hospital in Porter County, Indiana to South Bend, Indiana, where he was ultimately taken off life support. The doctor's findings would piece together more clues into the young boy's final moments. They found swelling on his brain, which was consistent with oxygen deprivation for an extended period of time. And young Dakota was pronounced dead. The St. Joseph County Coroner's Office would rule the 10-year-old's death as a homicide, and his cause of death would be mechanical asphyxia, an asphyxiation where a physical force or object stops a person from breathing.
Yeah, that's just terrible. Terrible, terrible.
Can't even put words into it. I don't know what this child would have been experiencing. I know it would have been terrible. I mean, terrible isn't even the right word to describe what this child would have been going through. Never in his life did he ever think that he was safe, and everything was taken out of him. Literally, his breath was taken from him, and just how awful that is when you experience it as an adult. When you lose your wind, right? When you get the wind knocked out of you, just
That's something that breaks my heart. This kid never felt safe in his entire life, and he especially didn't feel safe with her. I'm not going to go further on this because this is a little traumatizing even for me, but I don't know what else to say about this case other than it's just absolutely horrible, and I hope that they throw the book at this woman. Just look at this little kid's face. I hope they throw the book at her, and she goes to jail for a very, very, very long time. And I hope this changes her. I hope it changes her to the fact that she doesn't have to be the authority figure and throw her weight around. We'll see how far she gets along while in jail. Anyways, guys, that's my video for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you guys next time. I love you. God bless you.